Hey guys, Dr. Blackman here. We are looking at the lymphatic system model. And as always, I want you to follow along with me in your lab student handout so you know which structures you're responsible for. Okay. Starting down here on the leg, these white structures here that maybe look like blood vessels, they're not. These are the lymphatic vessels. Okay. You can see you have lymphatic vessels sort of all over the body, just like you have blood vessels all over the body, okay? And what travels through the lymphatic vessels? Lymph, right? Which is very similar to plasma, although not exactly the same, okay? Lymph nodes that filter the lymph to get rid of anything that should not be in your lymph, like bacteria, for example. Those are called lymph nodes, and they are located in certain strategic areas to help us filter those pathogens as part of our immune system. So these lymph nodes here, these yellow structures, they're the inguinal lymph nodes, okay? They're in that crease between the leg and the torso here, okay? So because it's the inguinal region, these are the inguinal lymph nodes. So any lymph traveling up from the leg has to go through these inguinal lymph nodes to be filtered first, okay? Because these are the intestines, right? These lymph nodes here are your intestinal lymph nodes. And they get rid of any pathogens that may have gotten into your system by having breached the walls of the intestines. So it gives us another layer of defense, okay? Because the armpit is the axillary region, these lymph nodes here, these yellow structures, those are the axillary lymph nodes, right? They drain lymph from the arm, okay? These are clinically relevant because breast tissue, the lymph that's made in breast tissue, travels to the axillary lymph nodes to be filtered, okay, before returning to the bloodstream. So if a woman has been diagnosed with breast cancer, when surgery is done, they will generally remove one or more of these axillary lymph nodes to see whether the breast cancer has metastasized or spread to these axillary lymph nodes, because if it has, then the treatment and the prognosis would be different. Okay, so axillary lymph nodes, and then because the neck is the cervical region, right, these lymph nodes here that are yellow, those are the cervical lymph nodes. So they help us fight off pathogens that may enter through the nose and mouth, for example. Okay, when we say we have swollen glands because maybe we have strep throat, right, those aren't really glands that are swollen, those are your lymph nodes that have become enlarged and tender, okay? Some other structures that we're responsible for, you need to know the ducts that return the lymph to the bloodstream, okay? That lymph does have to return to the bloodstream, or else you're gonna get accumulation of that fluid in your tissues. That's gonna be swelling, right? The other name for that being edema, okay? So you have to have these ducts, D-U-C-T-S, to allow a way for the lymph to return to the bloodstream, okay? So this duct, right, is kind of a light green, maybe even white structure that starts here, right, and runs through the thoracic cavity and empties into the left subclavian vein, okay? That's the thoracic duct, okay? You don't say right or left, it's just the thoracic duct, even though it's on the left side, okay? And again, it dumps into that left subclavian vein, okay? Now, it is responsible, the thoracic duct, it is responsible for returning lymph anywhere on the left side of the body and anywhere on the right side of the body below the diaphragm, which is shown here. Okay, so lymph on the left side and lymph on the right side below the diaphragm, that returns by way of the thoracic duct, okay? At the base of the thoracic duct, you're gonna have this dilated sac here where lymph coming from the legs accumulates and collects before that lymph travels up into the thoracic duct, okay? So that dilated sac there has a special name. It's called the cisterna chyli, okay? Kind of hard to pronounce, hard to spell. A cistern is a storage tank, right? For like gasoline or corn or grain or whatever, okay? So that's why this is called the cisterna chyli. It kind of serves as a cistern, but for lymph, okay? Cisterna chyli, C-H-Y-L-I. Okay, sounds like the first name of a famous person that you may know. Okay, the other duct that returns lymph, but only on the right side of the body, superior to the diaphragm, that's the right lymphatic duct. And you can see it's a lot smaller than the thoracic duct. Why? Because it doesn't have to return nearly as much lymph as that thoracic duct did, okay? So again, right lymphatic duct, it empties into the right subclavian vein, okay? Just like the thoracic duct emptied into the left subclavian vein, okay? Another couple structures that you're responsible for on this model, this structure here, right there, it hangs off the cecum, that first pouch of your large intestine. That small structure there looks like a little worm-like structure. Okay, that hangs off the cecum, that's the appendix. You usually don't hear about it until it gets inflamed, appendicitis, which can be deadly if it ruptures. Okay, so if somebody comes into an emergency room with pain in their right lower quadrant, it's appendicitis until you prove that it's not appendicitis. Okay, so again, there's the appendix. Okay, this structure here that is behind the stomach, okay, and you really can't see it all that great here because because the stomach is there. That's the spleen. Okay, so the spleen is in the left upper quadrant of our bellies, right? And it filters blood, right? The lymph nodes filter lymph, the spleen filters blood, okay? Let me make sure I covered all of the structures that you're responsible for. There's one structure that's not on this model, but it's a very important structure. And the reason maybe it's not on this model, maybe this is a 70 or 80-year-old man, for example. The structure that I'm going to describe so you can be thinking as I'm describing the structure. It's located in the mediastinum here between the lungs, and it's superior to the heart, which is not shown here. Right, so it's in the mediastinum, superior to the heart. It's a bilobed structure, okay? It's where T cells go to mature, and it atrophies after puberty. It gets smaller after puberty, to the point where once you get to be a certain age, you might not find it at all because it's been replaced with fat and connective tissue. So that structure, which would be here if, let's say this were a 10-year-old boy, that's the thymus, okay? And please don't get the thymus and the thyroid gland mixed up, okay? They both start with THY, so that's a common mistake that students will make. Okay, so thymus would be here if it were shown in this model, but the thyroid gland is there in the neck. The thyroid gland we'll study when we get to the endocrine system. Okay, good luck, guys. Keep working hard.